Um, Welcome to W4M Roundtable. I'm your host, Tiffany Foster, and I'm so glad that you've decided to join us today. For anyone that's new here, just so you know, W4M Roundtable is part of Women for Mentors, our nonprofit. And this is part of building out our community. It's designed to connect, inspire, and empower women through authentic stories and real world lessons. So today's session is produced in partnership with Pinnacle Strategic Advisors. And our topic is working at 90%, Powerhousing Life, and Finding Pockets of Joy. Joining me today is my co-host, Ginny Overbay, who's also one of our Women for Mentors crew members. And she's going to be also sharing some insights and some questions and just joining in on the conversation that we have with our guest today. So the whole goal here is to just have an honest, grounded, and just practical conversation and just keep it real. And so let's get into it. So with us today, we have Nina Pfeil, and she has anything but a traditional career path. Which is something so near and dear to our hearts here at Women for Mentors. As you know, we are always striving to encourage women and help and support them through their journeys and returning to education. So Nina went from customer service rep to teacher to attorney. And after spending 5 years living in South Korea, she now manages attorneys at a high volume residential real estate law firm. When she's not leading teams or tackling legal challenges, she's at home with her husband and two toddlers, embracing the beautiful chaos of family life. So welcome, Nina. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh
Made
my
me sound
goodness.
so much cooler.
You are so cool. Oh my gosh. And I can't wait, to dig into just your journey with you. But why don't you just tell us a little bit about what you're currently doing in your role as a managing attorney?
Yeah, so currently I manage 21 attorneys here at my firm. I work for Hankin and Pack, and we have 5 offices. Our main hub is in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then we have an office in Raleigh, Greensboro, Charleston, South Carolina, and Alpharetta.
Oh my God.
Um, and we also do title, which a lot of our title attorneys are there, but then we have satellite attorneys throughout those offices. And yeah, we're moving and grooving. We just hired 4 new attorneys and I'm excited.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, that sounds like a lot to track. And just tell us a little bit too. I know you have a beautiful little family. Tell us a little bit about your family.
Well, my 2 little girls are disasters, but they are a really good time. They're a really good time. Mira is 3 and she has her first appointment to go to pre-K, which is kind of crazy
Oh
and
my
sad at the
goodness.
same time. So she'll do
Yeah.
that. And then Ella is 2 and she is the boss of everybody. And they are hilarious. And my husband, of course, is working full time as well. So we just are running around each other in a very busy household right now.
Yeah, yeah, you guys are on for the ride. I mean,
Yes.
that's right in the thick of it. Oh my goodness. Oh, well, this is exciting. So we're going to jump in and dial back a little bit to, I think, just talking to you and starting off with, your educational journey. I mean, and how
Yeah.
you kind of got to where you are today.
Yeah,
So let's just talk a little bit about, what returning to school looked like for you and, later in education and how you got back
absolutely.
into, pursuing law.
Yeah, so I was not a traditional student for law school, but I did my undergrad, which was normal. And then I went to law school. At that time, I was straight out of undergrad and decided this was not for me. So I did 1 year, came out, went to work full time, started in customer service, and during that time, got my master's in education, and then went to teach for 5 years. And then when I came back, I went to law school at in 2015, so a long time ago. So I was definitely in my 30s as a lawyer and student again, and that was pretty humbling, right? Because you're in a classroom with way younger kids. They have come from directly from undergrad and gone into law school while you're the oldest one in the room. And It was actually really good for me just because I knew why I was there. I feel like that experience for me was really good for that reason. I wasn't there to have a great time or to party or to meet friends. I was there to get my law degree, and that's exactly what I did.
That's awesome. I mean, so like for other women that are, considering law, later in life and taking, a pause and coming back to it,
Mhm.
what would be something you think they should know up front, just, to get prepared for that?
I honestly think that as an older woman going into this as a non-traditional student, as an older woman, you are more prepared than any of those other people in that room. So go for it because you're coming into this environment that you are prepared for. You've been in the workforce probably, so you're already on that mental workload, prepared for all things that are to come. You've already gone through undergrad at that point, so you kind of know what to expect. I mean, as we get older and we have different life balances to happen, I did become a full-time student, so I wasn't in like a night program. There are different law programs for that. I think that would be a little bit more challenging. I do think that going into law school, giving it your all and being a full-time student is the way to go in this situation. But I think that as an older woman, you are way more prepared for that than you are coming directly from undergrad and going into something so rigorous.
Yeah, it sounds like that really helped like shape
I think so.
your
Yeah.
confidence and stuff like that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You just have a goal. I think just your eye on the prize. I think that's how most women going into any kind of education after the fact is the way to go.
Yeah, yeah, we agree with that. As you know, like Ginny and I both returned to education in our
Hmm.
30s as well, and yeah, there's a different determination, right? Like you look at
Hmm.
it like I need to do this. Like this is not I'm not figuring myself out, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you've already
Right. I already know. I know myself. I'm just
yeah,
here to do what I need to do.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah, just get the job done. So
Hmm.
love that. So, and then so how did that shape you from coming from teaching, to pursuing law? Was there anything that you were able to glean and take from those years? You said you worked in South Korea for 5 years. Like how were you able to take any of those expertises, those lessons, the things that you learned along the way with you that helped you?
I think that helping you with people, especially being in a completely different culture, that was a huge learning experience, and definitely made me a better educator. And I still look at what I do now as education. So I get to teach a lot of first-time home buyers what it is they're doing and what they should and shouldn't do, and the things that they're signing. I'm still educating them on that, but I'm also educating my team on how to make everybody feel comfortable, and understand the things that they are signing and teaching them in that way. Because everybody has their own method of teaching, right? And not everybody learns the same. So we all know that. But I think that having taught in a different country, culture, bringing that back over to being a lawyer, it's definitely helped me with the people part of what I do, which is talking to people all day, every day, not just clients, but also other attorneys and other staff. It can be challenging. People are the hardest part of any job.
Oh,
But I
sure.
think bringing that
For
bringing
sure.
that in from that is,
Yeah.
it's been very useful. Definitely have just taken pockets of life beforehand, and just being older in that has been just a very big part of what has shaped me into the person manager that I am now.
Well, and it sounds like too, because you're in your role, right? You're responsible not only for overseeing other attorneys, but you also have the client facing aspect of it too. So
Mhm.
that's a lot of people to kind of manage and communicate with. And so
Yeah.
it sounds like you have your hands full a lot, and you're having to use
Yeah.
these practices a lot in your day to day. So
Hmm.
oh,
Yes.
oh my goodness. So like what, you know, on the journey that you're on and in the career path that you're on, you're in a different part of law. So, I mean, I think before when we had talked before, you had an earlier interest in like criminal law. And so maybe like can you talk to us a little bit about that transition and how those different aspects of law, are to practice in and to be, using these skills and interacting with people in.
Yeah, so I started in immigration and adoption. So that was what I started in when I started practicing law. And that was obviously completely different than what I do now, which is the transactional part. And starting off in adoption and immigration, that was very, very emotional. It was a very emotional part of the law because you're dealing with people who are making, I mean, not saying that buying a house is not a huge life decision,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
when you're talking about placing your child up for adoption or people trying to get over to the country and do it in a legal way and maybe their case being denied, it's devastating, right? It's
yeah.
absolutely devastating. And I would cry. And obviously you can't see your clients can't see you cry. That's just not what you're supposed to do. But I mean, you have to have empathy in order to represent your clients well. And I definitely had that, but I also had sympathy and also just I wasn't cut to handle that. So I moved from that portion of the law and I still was doing semi-immigration, but it was bringing teachers from all over the world. When I was in Asheville, I worked for a company where we would bring teachers from like mostly the Philippines, Jamaica, some from China over to the United States and place them in school districts throughout North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, and Florida. And I really believed in that program because I did something similar, going over to South Korea and teaching in another country. Um, but the people part of real estate is very different than the people part of teachers coming from another country and trying to support them in that way, or people who are making the choice to place their kid up for adoption, or people who are trying to get asylum in the United States. This is a way more transactional and for the most part a happy part of the law. Most people are happy to be purchasing a home. The people part is still similar, where it can be very emotional. You often act as um, I guess, a therapist. Even
Yeah.
in this role, people are trying to, they have to sell a home from their mom's estate, right? And this is the last piece, and you've held people while they cry because this is a big moment, and it's just really devastating. You hold people out of joy of they never thought this could be them. So the people part has changed, but people are still people. So it's just like the emotions, while this is more transactional, the emotion behind it can still be just as real as the people who are having to make the difficult decision to place their kid up for adoption or who have changed their mind about placing their kid up for adoption and you having to share that with the adoptive family. So, I don't think you're ever fully separated from any of that. It's just navigating through it and waiting through managing people and emotions and just
Yeah.
being supportive of all of that.
That's incredible. And how much does it impact, you on your end to the company that you actually work for in doing this? Like how does that play a role, in having that backing behind you to make this journey and this workload,
Yeah, I
worth
have to say I have a very supportive partners. The partners of my firm are amazing. And my direct boss, one of the partners, he is the people part of the company and truly just a backbone of this firm. And I really believe in them, which it makes me love what I do, right? Like
amazing.
when you have leadership that you can count on to support you in the decisions that you're making, and to support you when it gets tough, or just gives you that pat on the back to be like, hey, I just want to say you did a really great job this week.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we all need to just hear that, right? We all, as mothers, we're all mothers, as women in leadership, like sometimes you just need to hear somebody tell you that, even if you're like, man, I crushed this week, to get that additional, I guess,
Support and
support. And just for them to
yeah,
say that, to hear it from somebody else, you're like,
yeah,
okay, I really did crush it this week. So
yeah,
I do have a really good support system here at work who they believe in me, which I think is huge. It's huge.
Yeah.
They believe in me and have entrusted me in this role. So, I don't take it lightly.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. And
I
I would think
appreciate
too
it.
that would make it a lot easier too, because we all come up across things where at times we have to self-advocate for ourselves,
Hmm.
and we have to be mindful and look out for ourselves. But when you have a company that believes in you and is actually
And they want to do the right thing.
yeah,
That's
they're creating
huge.
the stage, which that's
Hmm.
incredible, especially too if you've got a lot that you're juggling, like
Yes.
like you do, because that's something that I'm sure on any given day, any ball could drop, right? And
Yes.
kind of like blow the floor out from underneath you. so,
Yes,
so,
definitely.
so
And
yeah,
that's the shifting and the pivoting and trying to figure that out on your own. That can be really challenging.
yeah, yeah,
And I think that's why they trust us to do those things. It's like, hey, we know. I think that we, as women, are multitaskers, right? People are like, oh, nobody can multitask. Well, yes, you can, right? It may not always be at 100%, but we do the best we can and just have to quickly shift when something is swept out from under your feet. You're like, what do you mean that you can't be to work tomorrow when we have all of this, that, and the other to do? And then it's your job to figure that out, to be like, okay, it's not their job to figure it out, it's my job. It's a
yeah.
little stressful, but we figure it out.
Yeah, yeah, right. I mean, yeah, for you, I know that I know there's even been times too, like where we tried to connect even to talk about this and stuff, and something came up and what have you. And I know that it keeps you running a lot, but I think what's so great, and that's part of the title of this is finding those pockets of joys, because you always talk
Hmm.
about finding these little moments and stuff. It
Yes,
sounds like you're able to do that even throughout your work day, taking aside the family aspect of it, but even throughout your work day, because you work somewhere where you have that support, and it sounds like you have a great team, which is
I have
really
a great team. I have nothing to complain about there, but yeah, you and I talked about this a while ago, just about finding the pockets of joy. That's like that 80/20 where they're like, oh, you need to have that work-life balance. And I'm like, there's no such thing, right? I really don't think that there's any such thing as a work-life balance, but it is about finding the pockets of joy and fully taking advantage of those moments because we are at work probably 80%,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
80% of our day. And I wish it weren't always like that, but in the meantime, it is what it is. But that 20% that I get to see my girls and hang out with my husband, I'm going to fully enjoy those moments, right? When we go on vacation or on the weekend, if we just have a lazy weekend, being able to do that. But absolutely, finding time to celebrate with your team. One of my teammates, colleagues, it's his birthday on the 7th, and he's going to be on vacation. So we got some nothing but cakes and we celebrated today. And we just
wonderful.
found that
Yeah,
moment. And that was one of the things that he was like, I really just love our team. And I'm like, me too. I really do, because you just have to find those moments to appreciate one another and to support one another and to celebrate those wins. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I love that, and I think I love your perspective on that too. Is kind of debunking the myth behind work life balance, and being
Yeah.
really honest about just no, you know what, this is a career that and notoriously, right, the stereotype,
Hmm.
working in law, people will go oh, that's a stressful career, and you're like, yeah, it is, but
Hmm. Yeah. It
this
is, but I chose it,
but I
right?
chose it, yeah.
That is it. That's one of the things that even
Yeah,
in anything that we do, right? In relationships, in marriage, anything, you're like, this is the life I chose. And if it's something that you don't find joy in anymore, then there's time to make a change. I'm not saying what that change is going to be, but you know, if I choose this, I choose to find the joy. Now, I am fortunate to do something that I enjoy. Not everybody has that profession, right? Sometimes work is work. There's going to
yeah,
be parts of it that you hate. That's just the reality. I don't love every moment of my job every day,
yeah.
but there are those parts that I really do enjoy, that I find satisfying. Now, not everybody has that. Some people are just like, God, I really hate going to work. I am fortunate. I am not one of those people. I
Yeah.
enjoy my work. I do. I believe in it. I think it helps people. And I enjoy the company that I work for. So that's very helpful.
Would you to someone else, I mean, would you recommend, like, a law career, and like what would be the expectations you would say somebody should approach this career path with?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I think if it's something that you want to do, just like anything, then move forward, go forth. But I think you have to come with without the expectation of coming out making a ton of money, right? Like everybody's like, oh, if you go to law school, you're going to come out and you're going to be rich. False, not going to happen, right? Like that's not it. I remember when I was first applying out of law school or looking at jobs and I was looking at the salaries they were offering. Now, granted, this was years ago, right? Like 10 years ago. I mean, the salaries were like $40,000, which when you have six figures in law school debt, you're like, well, what am I supposed to
Ooh,
do with that? Right. So I think
yeah,
that you have to understand that you have to work to get to where you want to be. It's not just going to be handed to you. And I think, too, um, coming into this career later in life as an older woman, you've worked in a career before and knowing your worth, but also understanding that you don't know anything as a new lawyer, right? You don't know anything. So
yeah.
you know whatever your previous profession was, but you can't come in and start at the top in this profession. And I think everybody, not whether we're older or younger, everybody expects to come out making at least 80 grand, and that's not necessarily the case. And that's the unfortunate thing. So I think that would be the biggest um expectation that I would like to set for anybody. Like I say, go for it. It's totally worth it, especially if it's something you want to do. But you cannot have the expectation that you're going to make a ton of money coming out. You are going to have to work to get to that point.
I think that's a great piece of advice. And honestly, I think that's a great piece of advice across the board in general.
For any
There's,
profession, right?
there is, I think, I think generation after generation, I don't think this is unique to our generation or anything, but like, I think that, you keep watching, the next generation and how they approach work, and it's
Yeah.
changing and it's
Well, I
shifting.
think that generation in particular have these really crazy expectations of
Yeah.
making six figures off the bat. And you're like, okay.
Yeah. I always think, and I chalk it up to kind of like the fast food mindset. Everything's so quick now. Everything's so instantaneous. I mean, people can go viral
Yes.
and all of a sudden become millionaires the next day. And I think that it is a weird world, I think, to probably grow up and with that as your main
I
perspective,
agree with that.
And
Yes.
so I think, we probably look at it and go like, that's so weird, like why do you think like that? Like my first job, I made $5 an hour. Yeah.
I thought we were doing something. 625, you know? Hey, I
Like,
was crushing it.
but yeah, it's a little different. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, this is a good point right now. I'm going to just take a quick pause and just address to our audience. If you're enjoying this, we would encourage you to continue to support Women for Mentors. You can find out more about us at womenformentors.com and help encourage other women. You can help support this. We also have scholarships. We are working towards building out a scholarship right now to help women that are escaping domestic violence. So we appreciate all the support and please continue to help and join our community. So at this point, I'm going to hand it off to Ginny. So Ginny, take on over.
Yeah. So I want to capitalize on Nina being here and being very honest and realistic. So you just mentioned one misconception about maybe going into law. Are there any other misconceptions you can think about, like in the legal career spectrum that good or bad, that someone could consider?
Well, I mean, I think when I went into law, I definitely had that Olivia Pope thinking, like, oh my God, I'm going to walk in, I'm going to wear a suit and heels every day. I'm going to walk in and own that courtroom. And I was like, I don't want to do that. Like, I knew I didn't want to be a litigator once I went, like, and it's just like the image, right? Like a lot of people will do this for the status they think it brings. And the one thing I do want to share, because I've worked with other attorneys that have this frame of thinking, is I'm an attorney. Like, don't, and so what? Right? Like to me, that doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. like I'm an attorney. I shouldn't have to do this paralegal work. Like I have never had that mindset. Um, we are a team and we all get to where we're going together. So I think that um, the misconception that I want to break down is you thinking that you're better than anybody else because you're an attorney. Like that doesn't, that is irrelevant. I don't care who you are. Like I've had people be like, "Hey, can we do this closing at this time because I mean, he's a doctor." And I was like, "I don't care if he works at McDonald's." Like the time is the time. Like everybody's time is valuable and important. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. You don't get any special treatment because of whatever your profession is. Like, be kind and considerate. So I think that is huge. Like, but that's a people thing, right? And so I don't know if that's necessarily anything that can be taught, but maybe it's something that people can think about before they address a room, is that everybody in here is a person who deserves my respect and is no less than.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's a really great takeaway. I mean, if you think about it, I'm sure that there are lots of people that decide I want to go into law. It's a status thing, you
Hmm.
know. It's not necessarily this thing that they're passionate about or even that interested in necessarily, but you know,
It's
the
just to say that I'm a
status.
lawyer. You know, you have to do something with that though. Like use your powers for good, I hope, right? But I guess not every part of the law is good.
Yes, exactly. So, kind of on that topic. What are some kind of different paths one could take? Like if you go to law school, you know,
Mm.
you said at first you were doing more like immigration and adoption law, you do real estate law. How does that all work really? Like the path you decide to go down and then maybe
Well, the good
pivoting
news
inside.
is you go to law school, they don't teach you how to be a lawyer. So basically, you go to law school and then whatever. They don't teach you, I mean, they teach you how to take a test, really. So it's not like you major in something. When you go to undergrad, you're majoring in criminal justice, which was my undergrad, right? You're not majoring, you're just taking all your basic studies, right, to be a lawyer. And then um, there are a couple fields of practice that require additional testing, like patent law, tax law. Um, all of that requires extra, but you learn most of your practice in the field. So adoption and immigration didn't require any additional testing. I just went into it and learned along the way, you know. There's obviously different certifications that you can get in different fields and like um, different courts to be uh, considered in, like federal courts, different district courts like that that you have to get inducted into or sworn into. But otherwise, you just kind of learn in the field.
Hmm. So it sounds like it's not that different from all of our other jobs,
It's not. You learn
you
in
know.
the field. School doesn't teach you how to be anything, right? Like you get out and then you go forth. That's it. School, like
Mhm.
it did not teach you how to be a lawyer. The standardized testing that they give you to get into law school doesn't determine what kind of student you're going to be. It does give indicators of like what you could possibly do. But I always, as a former educator, I'm like, that doesn't determine what kind of student you're going to be. So if some people are not good test takers, so when they sit down and they get really anxious and they get nervous, that's not to say that they're not going to work hard and do well at what they end up ultimately doing. But it's something to consider when you know that this person is going to have to take the bar. So then they're not like six figures in debt and then don't have that earning potential to make that back because they can't pass the bar, right? So it gives good indicators, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to be good at what you do. So I think that for anybody that I would be telling, like, hey, if this is something that you want to consider and you're afraid that you're not a good test taker, you can take that LSAT more than once, right? You can keep taking it and you can study and you can prepare, but it does not indicate what kind of student you're going to be or what kind of lawyer you're going to be. I mean, we've got some people who took the LSAT, scored very well. We've got people who took the bar and passed on the first time, and they're all dummies. So, that's also it.
Exactly.
They may not be great lawyers. They may not be very smart. And they're lawyers, but it doesn't indicate, they passed the bar. That doesn't mean that they're a great lawyer, right? They knew how to take a test, right? So you decide your path in that. You decide what kind of human, what kind of lawyer, what kind of advocate you're going to be when you decide to take that oath.
hmm I think that's really, really interesting to think about. Fun fact, because I just watched the show about JFK Jr.
Oh, did you?
That he failed the bar. He went to law school and he failed it like multiple times.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
I
the
didn't
whole
know that.
thing. Yeah. I mean, and that's why when they say one and done, that's a real thing in law school to be like one and done because you get people who, I have a friend who did not pass the bar. They took it 5 times. The sixth
hmm
time the sixth try they passed, which I think takes courage, right? To be like, man, because first of all, it's not cheap to take the bar that many times. So but to also I think it takes courage to be like, I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again. I'm going to keep trying until I succeed. I'm like, okay, well, that's great. I think that if you've made it that far, then you should keep trying until you succeed. But I also understand how somebody could feel defeated, which is why I'm like, that's why it takes courage just to keep going. And look at
Definitely.
JFK. He made a name for
Exactly.
himself, didn't he?
You never know.
You never
So
know.
thinking about kind of needing that courage, that perseverance. Um, for someone who's considering going into law, like, are there some specific soft skills you can think about that would be really useful? Um, Seeing as how, especially you said you work with a team, but you have
Hmm.
clients, but then you have a lot of internal stuff too.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think that for what I do, I think that personality is huge. Personality, and not everybody has my personality. I'm a pretty positive, bubbly person in general. And that is something that is very helpful in my field because when people are buying a house, they want to feel celebrated. So I
hmm
can bring that. But I also have attorneys who are not bubbly, right? They're not bubbly. They're like, hey, I can teach you about this document that you're going to sign. But they're not going to go and be like, did you just buy a house today? Congratulations. Oh my God, happy moving. They're like, what the hell, Nina? I'm not doing that, right? And you're just like, you can't teach somebody personality. That's a thing, right? But maybe you can teach them to feign interest. I don't know, like just to be like, oh, congratulations on the purchase of your new home. Reach out if you have any questions. I don't know, right? There are some things that you can't teach them. So I think that like if you go into law, there are certain parts that you um don't need a personality for, right? But I still think you need to
hmm
be a good communicator. So a soft skill is being a communicator because no matter what part of the law you do, you're either going to have to write well and be able to communicate effectively what point or issue you're trying to get across, or you're going to have to be able to talk to people. So being an effective communicator is the soft skill. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that definitely makes sense. And also, it kind of just makes me think that, like so many jobs, if a person ever has a chance to work, in retail or a service job, it helps them so much. I feel like going
1000%.
forward in like any industry, really, if you
I
can.
mean, I think all of us have either worked as waitresses or in retail. I've done both. And I mean, just in the different issues that come about in your everyday life, working in the food industry, number one, waiting on tables, the type of people that you come across, and then working in retail. I worked in the shoe department when it was Hex, right? That was like, oh my God, these people are nuts, right? But it's the customer and it teaches you how to communicate well with people. So
Mhm.
it's a huge thing.
It helps you learn how to communicate. It helps you learn how to feign interest when you need to, because
Yes, you're
they're
like,
not
those shoes are
always
ugly, girl, but you know.
exactly. But you're, pumping them
You
up.
like them, I love them.
Exactly. So sounds very similar.
Yes, yes, that's all about the law too.
Exactly. I was thinking, so, kind of going back to just how busy you are, talking about there's not really a good way to have a work-life balance, which
Hmm.
I think the idea of just being like, there's not one is kind of freeing in a weird way because I think that we're almost pressured to make sure that we have a great
Yes, I
work-life
agree with
balance.
that.
Like it's almost swung the other way that you feel a lot of pressure to be like, no, I have to completely separate it and keep everything totally balanced.
Hmm.
So thinking like, okay, maybe we don't have to be obsessed with that idea. It kind of frees up your thinking a little bit. So I guess thinking about being in such a kind of demanding career, you're juggling a lot of things. How do you kind of save your energy, kind of protect your energy so that you're able to handle all of that?
Well, I mean, I really liked what you just said about like freeing up the way that you think about it. Like that's so real to be like, oh, I feel a lot freer knowing that that's not actual reality. Because I think you're right. I think we all feel very pressured to create this work-life balance that is just not actually possible. So I guess in a way to like keep my balance, I do a every month I go and get my nails and my feet done. That makes me happy. I keep my hair done. That also brings me joy. Um, and every year I do a girls trip. Like every year with my best friend. I mean, we go to Bald Head Island is the usual space because it's just so close. She lives in Wilmington and we just hop on the ferry and go over there. And it's just like a Friday night, a Saturday night, and I come home on a Sunday, right? And it is just like making those, taking that time and creating that pocket of joy and really relaxing and enjoying and being like, this makes it so worth it. It's not like every day or every weekend that you're getting to do something phenomenal, or it doesn't even have to be extravagant, but it is taking that time to be like, you know what, I work hard. I feel like I want these things. I think you have to be careful about like I deserve this, right? But like I want these things and I can do it for myself and I'm going to do it for myself. So taking that moment. And then as far as my kids go, making sure that, oh, now they're in this really fun stage where we get to play board games like Candyland, right? Ella just takes her little guy and runs away, and she's just a pain in everybody's butt on that. But Jenga, right? They're actually both pretty good at Jenga. So, like, getting them involved in that stuff and taking the time to read books at night and being like, these are the moments I get to be a part of this. And one of the other things that I was reading yesterday was like waking up and when your job is like stressful or when you feel overwhelmed, is to being like, I was chosen to do this job, right? I get to do this job. And maybe shaping my thought a little bit different on those really hard days to be like, I get to do this. I get to manage this team of people. I get to come into my office, which has windows on both sides and I have great light. Like, not every day is golden, but finding those moments to find the pot and finding those pockets of joy and taking the time and enjoying that is so important. And like you said, just take the pressure off of thinking like this isn't the way it should be because it is what it is. So if you focus too much on being like, I should be able to have, you know, I don't know what anybody would think is like a realistic work-life balance. Like I would love to be like, oh yeah, I have 3-day work weeks. Like, I don't even know what job that is. Like, who has that? I don't even know. I
I
don't
would
really
like it,
know
but
who has that and what do they do? I don't know. But, just kind of getting rid of that thought is super freeing and to be like, yeah, but you know what? I also do get a vacation that I can take and enjoy. So I will do that when I can.
yeah, exactly. So kind of being intentional, like you said, finding those pockets of joy when you can, but
Hmm.
having some intention behind it, like I'm going to go on this trip every year, or I am going to, make it to
And
my,
having stuff to look forward to. I'm not saying to live for the
yeah.
future, but like having a plan set out, I enjoy books. When in my drive into work, I listen to audiobooks or podcast. That's my moment. But having, those little things planned with my kids to be like, oh, guess what we're gonna do this weekend? We're gonna
Hmm.
go on an Easter egg hunt in our neighborhood. Like that is something so simple, but also amazing because they have a great time doing it. They're just like, this is so fun. And you get to
Exactly.
watch them. So it's the little things for them. You're like, this isn't even anything extravagant, but they're having a great time, and that's all that matters. So We haven't even left the neighborhood. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't always have to be a big trip
Hmm.
or anything like that. Or
Yep.
like you said, even at work, celebrating your colleague's
Yes.
birthday, even finding things to do kind of in the workspace too, of like,
Yes.
oh, this is a fun thing we get to do this one day. We get to celebrate this person or,
Right.
whatever.
Right. I think you have to choose the way that you think about it, right? It's because everything can be exhausting. I'm tired, don't get me wrong. Like I'm tired, okay? We're all tired. Um, but there are so many pieces of joy to find in the tiredness, to be like the things that I find that I am grateful for. And ultimately, even being tired, guess what? Like it's not as bad as it could be, and that maybe that's a bleak outlook, but it's just like, oh my gosh, like I've got it pretty good. I've
Mhm.
got it pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's always helpful to think about. Like if you're, feeling stressed and overwhelmed at work, and maybe the reason you're feeling that way is because you're really great at your job and people depend on you.
Yeah.
If you kind of think about it like, well, I am really good at this. Or I am the best person for this, and that's why everyone's asking me questions all the time. Um, trying to reframe it, like you said, and be a little more intentional with your thinking.
Yes, 1000%. If you can just change the way that your brain processes things, which is hard, like that's not easy. And it's definitely not done overnight. So it
Yeah,
can
definitely.
it really does change how just I guess it can change your response to the way things work, right? So,
Exactly. I think so. I got just I guess we'll kind of start wrapping it up. I had just a couple more like short questions
mhm.
to throw at you. Can you think of one thing you wish you knew earlier? And this could be related to your job,
Mm.
that work-life balance, school, anything, just maybe something you've picked up along the way that would have been
I mean,
nice.
there's probably so many things that I wish I knew earlier, right? Like, I don't ever want to go back to like my 20s. Like, that was a good time for me. And so I don't regret any of it. But like, if I knew now if I knew then what I know now, would
Hmm.
my decisions be a little different? I don't know. One thing that I don't know. I mean, I just think that it's all a learning process and I'm enjoying the ride. Like I don't know. Pretty there are so many things that I still don't know, right? And I think the reality is we don't know what we don't know until we know it. So I'm grateful for the knowledge that I have and look forward to learning all the things that are to come. But I don't know. I mean, there are tons of things that I wish I had known sooner just in maybe self-advocacy. I learned how to do that later in my career, which I think as women, we've talked about this, it's super important to be an advocate for yourself and to not feel bad about that. Like, I think learning that pretty early in life is super important. And I wish I had known that sooner, just in my first career, I guess, to be like, oh, it's okay to advocate for what you deserve, but it's also about being self-aware of you being a student still. You're still a student in your first role. So you can advocate for the things that you want, but you also have to appreciate that you are still learning. You are not the teacher, you are the student and appreciating the knowledge that's to come your way.
Hmm. Yeah, and I would say that a lot of that definitely comes with maturity. No, being able to
Oh, yeah.
recognize that
I agree with
awesome, I don't
that.
know.
Maturity is huge.
Yeah, and that, you just kind of have to keep going through it and then eventually you reach it. So
Yeah, I
it's
guess.
not something you can just get,
Because some people you're like, are you
unfortunately.
gonna get there? Okay. Hmm.
Some slower than others, I guess. I think last question, kind of, you sort of briefly just touched on this, but do you have any advice you'd give for women in particular that are considering going into law?
Go for it. There's not really, I mean, I'm always willing to be a resource and help everybody, you know, if they have questions, share my information. Happy to be a resource for them and advocate in any way that I can. If I have contacts and they're looking for some connection somewhere, I'm happy to help them out with
Hmm.
that. But um, just go in with guns blazing is it. Like go in and just, do your thing. Do your
Hmm.
thing.
Cool. Very, very good.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate, so much that you just came to share your insights on this today because, I know, you're working full throttle, you keep it so real about what this looks like, raising a family, chasing little ones is a
Yeah,
whole
you guys, we've
job
all
in
been there, right?
itself.
I'm just still in it.
Oh my gosh, you are so in the thick of it. I mean,
Hmm.
and it just keeps going because they keep growing. But it's the weirdest thing. The more you feed them, they keep growing.
Wild.
The more gray hairs that keep popping through too. That's
Oh
that
my
part.
gosh. And then they become teenagers and it's like, oh. But but I mean, it's so great. Just, I think that you gave us and gave our audience just, a different perspective. And I love that so much is just taking off that pressure and realizing that, yeah, you can work a high powered career. You can have a family later in life and you can do all these things. You're very honest about it. Like it's hard, but it's achievable and you can enjoy it and you can get on the
And
ride
you should.
and love your
Yes.
life. And it's
Mhm.
amazing. So just thank you so much
Thank
for
you
just,
for having me.
yeah, thank you for sharing that. And then to everyone who has watched, just remember that success doesn't always look balanced, but it can still be meaningful. Find your pockets of joy, advocate for yourself, and don't lose sight of today's gifts while building your tomorrow. So
Yes.
Nina, is there any way, like if people wanted to reach out and get in touch with you or, maybe they needed, somebody to help them with real estate,
Yes.
how can they reach you?
Yes. My email, you can certainly reach out to me at my email address, which I think you can share, but I can say it here. It's Nina, Nina dot P as in Paul, F as in Frank, EIL at henkenpacklaw.com. It's a very long one. So nina.file at henkenpacklaw.com is a great way to reach out to me, and I am happy to be a resource, answer any questions that you may have in regards to going into the practice of any type of law, but also to help you in all your real estate needs.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate you, appreciate your story. And to everybody, thank you for joining us. And let's just keep rising together.
Yes, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.